So finally, we have The Clearing by Wolf Alice. This was our poll winner. So thank you to everyone who voted. I think it was my pick for the poll. Although if I hadn't, I'm sure you would have, Carl. So
I mean, I voted for it, so
there we go.
I
Yeah.
can't remember what I
Because I
picked,
think I
but
was looking at it earlier. I think you must have gone blood orange for your one.
no, I think kind of went blood
There was the
orange.
Beths as well, which I definitely didn't pick, and I didn't pick Nova Twins, which was Phil's. So you must have, because I didn't pick blood orange either.
Maybe I went blood orange then.
Yeah, but clearly Wolf Alice was where they
Yeah.
wanted. So yeah, cheers to everyone who, which is mainly you and me. The clearing, yeah. I mean, I spoke about the journey with Tops in that previous review, and also the similarities in terms of the kind of genre space with Bury the Key by Tops, and then this album, The Clearing by Wolf Alice. But whereas Tops we're going in cold, with Wolf Alice, both you and I, you know all three of their previous records. I think you, like me, love them. I think it's a fantastic 3 album run they've had, and there's not many bands I can think of who've done that. Three straight off the bat. Albeit, we spoke about CMAT earlier, so that so another artist in that ballpark. Um, but yeah, it's whereas for Tops, that soft rock 70s kind of aesthetic might be what they do, and again, answers on a postcard. Or we just actually listen to their reviews. But for Wolf Alice, this is definitely stepping out of their comfort zone, what they've done before. It's a bold move. Again, I think from our conversations whilst we were listening to this, and you'll have to say if this isn't the case for you, but we were both apprehensive on first listens, and at first I thought, okay, they've had a great 3 album run, but you can't maintain it. Even Stevie Wonder produced a lot of guff. Yeah, I did think, yeah, this might be the one where Wolf Alice have dipped. I think where I've landed after more listens is, yes, it's a dip from the other 3, but that is a very high standard. The other 3, I think, are all just sort of right up there in their respective years. And I love all 3 of them. Uh, but the clearing did get me. So, and it's the hooks. It's kind of a lot of kind of pop elements to this album. And it's interesting, read a fair bit about how the band approach this, and Ellie, the front woman, kind of finding that confidence to be herself and be the front woman she wants to be, which almost hints at sort of hiding behind the rock music in the past, and being part of the collective. Whereas this is like, at times it feels like it's an Ellie Rosal debut. Sorry, solo record.
Mm.
And actually, like, what I found again quite interesting using the Genius website and whatever is that the producer here as well has a massive impact on this album. A lot of the times playing piano. Let me find his name. So, Greg Kirsten. I mean, it's almost the two of them as a new duo in a lot of ways, and yet, you see the drummer have play his biggest role in a Wolf Alice album as well, most particularly on White Horses, where he takes lead vocals. Um, so yeah, it's a really bold step, but Ellie's vocals have never sounded so good. Even though I don't think this album is matches the other 3,
Mm.
I think her vocals are the best on this one. Um, they're sort of in a different phase of life, and that's reflected, I think, on this album, and they're quite at ease with taking on this new direction. I think the songs in which it kind of is pulled off the very best would be Bloom Baby Bloom, Leaning Against the Wall, and White Horses. They're probably my top 3 on this one. But there's rarely a bad moment. I think Bread, Butter, Tea, Sugar it's very catchy. I do quite enjoy it, but maybe is a slight dip. The piano takes a really big place in this album. So that if you like a piano ballad, then give this one a go. But yes, it's quite a playful album. I think um, yeah, it's a bold step. It actually reminded me of Haim's "I Quit" album. But I felt this is more concise and better than that one ultimately. And then, like I say, once it really bedded in, once the harmonies were kind of there, and yeah, I kind of gave 4 albums in. They haven't taken. Whilst I felt this was it's almost like a near miss in that sense, and I been would have saddened me that I'd have felt that they had taken a wrong step. In what's been, like I say, great 10 years of the band so far. But yeah, like I say, it's bold, but it works. And I think really just is reflecting a really interesting phase for the band, and sort of maybe it's a bit of an Arctic Monkey step to take them into their next phase. Yet to be seen. But ultimately where I lands was that. And then when I was compiling my own Mercury Prize list, this made it. So it's one of the best 12 British albums I've heard, between the last 12 months, basically. Um, so yeah, that's me on the clearing. What, Carl? Because I think, like I say, that similar kind of journey for you, right? In terms of initially being a little bit put off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've listened to this one. I would say probably the second most on the slate this month. And yeah, like you, I went from really disappointed to it growing on me, quite a lot. That said, I'm still not quite sure what to make of it or how I feel about it. It's a strange one. It's you know obviously you mentioned it, big Wolf Alice fan from their right from their early days supporting Swim Deep. Every album they've done, I think, has ended up in my top 10 of the year. Blue Weekend was in my top three and is probably still my favorite album of theirs. Um, and yeah, obviously we had Bloom Baby Bloom as the lead single, which I think is still one of their best songs to date. Just a powerhouse of a track. Ellie's vocal performances on there just absolutely jaw dropping. As you say, as it is across most of this record. Um, the Sofa as well we had as a single, which felt like vintage Wolf Alice. White Horses that you mentioned, fantastic as well. So yeah, I was really enjoying all the singles. So yeah, that base plus how I felt about them anyway, went into this with very high expectations, and I think, naturally it has ended up falling a bit short, even though it has grown on me. Um, and yeah, it's one of those that, there's nothing bad about it. There's some great moments on here. The three singles I mentioned as well as Lean Against the Wall. Um, and you mentioned Bread Butter Tea Sugar. I think the latter part of that track with that, awesome guitar passage from Joff. Really, really like that part of the song. Um, yeah, the instrumentation and these vocals are arguably as accomplished as they've ever been. The record is probably, their most cohesive and well-rounded as well. But I think oddly that might be the problem for me. In the, in the fact that they've tightened up and maybe become more polished, they've almost lost a bit of what I enjoyed about them, which was like their rawness and, the eclecticism in their music. You know, like you go back to an album like Vision of a Life and, you had that ethereal opener in Heavenward. Then you had Yog Fu, which is like this ferocious punk track, and then Beautifully Unconventional, which is like this catchy pop song. You know, that's always what I loved about Wolf Alice, that they were a band to, keep you on your toes and hit you in all these different ways as you were listening to one of their records. And yeah, I think as flawless as this record is in terms of how it's constructed and put together. It just leaves me feeling a bit underwhelmed and unmoved. I think that's the biggest crime for me, is that there's a lot of tracks here that just kind of come and go without really leaving a mark. Play It Out, um, in the middle of the track list here with Ellie reflected on motherhood is obviously one that stands out from, that side. But yeah, that's one of a few really. Fawns, Passenger Seat, Just Two Girls, even, which I know they've just released. Midnight Song. They're all really well made songs, but they're still ones that aren't really gripping me yet. So yeah, I think I'm not as disappointed as I was. It's definitely grown on me, but I think all things considered, I was still undecided about how I feel about it. I definitely, yeah, don't hate it. There's a lot here that I think, as I say, is up with it. It's up there with their best work. But there's also a lot here that just leaves me feeling a bit cold. I think, you mentioned the Arctic Monkeys. This feels like their Tranquility Base hotel and casino moment for me, in terms of both the direction that they're taking, but also like how divisive it maybe is, amongst, people that have listened to their music up until this point. So, you guys know I wasn't a fan of that record. So, like, I'm
I
already
loved it.
yeah, I'm already much higher on this Full Palace album. I'll say that much. But
Yeah.
I think it's one of those that, I'll keep revisiting it, and yeah, we'll see where it lands at the end of the year. But yeah, I think Mercury Prize, as you say, still deserving of that. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'd be giving it a prize at this moment in time.
Yeah.
So a little bit divided on that one then,
Yeah.
for an album which naturally divides anyway.